Hey, today we're gonna talk about the effects of legalizing cannabis and prostitution in a given economy. Haven't you guys ever wondered what would be the economic and social implications of implementing such a decision? That's exactly what we're gonna do today. Let us start by looking at the example of legalization of cannabis in Colorado. As most of you may already know, Colorado is a Midwest US state where recreational use of pot was legalized in 2012, providing us with 4 years of more than interesting figures for our study. The first and most direct effect will be an increase in the government's tax revenue coming from the tax on consumers. This will, at its turn, lead to an increase in the reserves. Here are some figures from Colorado's administration official website on legalization. As it can be seen, almost $22 million were raised in 2014 from cannabis taxation, and that same figure amounted to almost $30 million only 1 year later. Nevertheless, legalization is far from being an unlimited source of revenue for the government's pockets. Only in weed use healthcare-related expenses, the government spent $1.5 million. Law enforcement accounted for $1,400,000. Education on cannabis use costed the government almost another $1.5 million. And finally, regulation proved to be the most expensive feature with $2.5 million of cost. So healthcare, added to enforcement, plus education and regulation, account for a total of almost $7 million of cost. That's quite expensive, isn't it? Well, let us do the math then. If you earn near $30 million and you subtract to them your $7 million of cost, you are left with close to $22.5 million of profit that the Colorado state government found itself to implement whichever policies they would like. Legalizing the use and possession of cannabis will surely disturb its market as well. Imagine this is the market for cannabis in a given economy before legalization. This would be our supply and demand curves, and this would be our market equilibrium with its correspondent price and quantity. Should a tax be applied, we would expect a shift upwards of the supply curve, resulting in a higher price but a smaller quantity. However, research also showed that in the short run, an element of social excitement will drive the demand curve upwards as well, resulting this time in both a higher price and a greater quantity. This may have good economic implications from the government's tax revenue collection perspective, but the number of users will surely go up as well. Here's a table showing the proportion of the adult population that consumes marijuana in a series of countries. Surprisingly enough, the Netherlands, a country known for its legal use of cannabis, is to be found with a relatively low figure of around 6 to 7%. This illustrates how the social excitement phenomenon really is of the short term, whereby with time, the Dutch people would have come to see cannabis as something as normal and accepted in their societies as cigarettes or alcohol could be. All in that, what can certainly be said is that legalization is a very controversial issue posing both great benefits and dangerous risks. It is up to each society to decide whether if they want to prohibit or permit.
Now it is time to change the subject. We're going to talk about legalization of prostitution in the Netherlands. But this is a more complicated topic. There are less economic factors we could use to show you the real impact of legalization in the economy. First of all, we're going to compare illegal prostitution with legal prostitution in the Netherlands. In one hand, we have legal prostitution. Consumption of legal prostitution accounts for 0.4% of Holland's total GDP, and it has been legalized in 13 different cities around the country. Legalization does not mean a rush into the regulation of this activity. It is completely the opposite. Dutch authorities make sure that sexual workers would have healthcare, a minimum age to perform this activity, the obligation to pay taxes, and regulations that tackle human trafficking. Now it is time to talk about illegal prostitution. It accounts for 500 million euros each year. It means 16% of the total consumption of prostitution in the country. However, together with illegal prostitution, it is proven to be the perfect cover for money laundering. So now it's time for you to draw your own conclusions regarding legalization of weed and prostitution using the example of Colorado and Holland.